I'm Lawrence Anthony, and this is my Nightcap. There's been a lot of talk about privilege lately, whether we're talking about white privilege or any other type of privilege that is used as a weapon or used to feign ignorance. But there is one privilege that I believe we can use to our favor, and that's collectively used to our favor, and that's the privilege of hindsight. Hindsight teaches us a lot. The past teaches us a lot. And we know that if we do not study the past, kind of doomed to repeat it. Isn't it funny that some of the same mistakes or same things that have happened before come up coincidentally? Take the Tulsa Massacre, for example. I say massacre because for those who are aware, it was a massacre. In 1921, 99 years ago this week, Dick Rowland was entering into an elevator in the Tulsa building when he tripped, was falling. In order to prevent himself from actually falling and hurting himself, grabbed to the nearest person he could find. The mistake that he made, the only mistake he made, was that it just happened to be a white woman. See, back then in Oklahoma was a very segregated state. Right? Sure, blacks could have businesses and a number of other things, but mingling was not one of them. And the KKK was actually starting to reemerge back then. Immediately, Dick Rowland was taken in, held at the police station, and was told that he was going to be lynched. Or word got around that he was going to be lynched. I'll read you an excerpt from some of the accounts from the Tulsa Massacre. The mobs were met by a group of armed black men who stormed the courthouse. One of the highest concentrations of wealth in the country was in this area. We don't get taught that. In just over a day, that entire neighborhood, businesses, community, lives were destroyed. When we talk about the Tulsa Massacre, which happened almost 100 years ago this week, doesn't get taught in history books. The largest reason for this being my nightcap, though, is because if we fail to acknowledge history, we are doomed to repeat it. How many times have we heard that? Now, often we hear, well, that was 100 years ago, Lawrence, things have changed. Why bring it up? Well, because these things often have a way of repeating themselves. Look no further than 2020, last week. Amy Cooper in Central Park with Christian Cooper. 2020, 1921. Almost 100 years in between, and yet an eerily almost similar situation. Let's look to the past. Because if we don't, we're doomed to repeat it. I share this with you as my nightcap, not to depress us or not to throw extra weight on, quite frankly, a week that has been weighty already. But my hope is that we learn from things. My hope is that we actually look at these situations and say, that was wrong. We must never let that happen again. We do that with so many other massacres, so many other traumatic events, so many other tragedies, so many other wrong institutions. We hope to learn from 9/11. We hope to learn from Pearl Harbor. We hope to learn from the Jewish Holocaust. We hope to learn from slavery. These are things that we learn rightfully from. And we never forget, rightfully so. So, when it comes to the perspective of hindsight, when it comes to the privilege of hindsight, which we all have, let's use that privilege to our benefit. Tulsa's history teaches us that when privilege is used as a weapon rather than a tool of support, then we have occurrences and massacres like Rosewood in 1923, and we have situations like Amy Cooper in 2020. So as we look toward improving the present situation and molding the future toward one that looks like some form of racial equality, understanding, and fairness as a whole, let's also understand that some things in the past need to be corrected. Some things in the past need to be acknowledged. Some things in the past need to be learned from. That's a privilege we can get behind. And that's a privilege every single one of us has, to look back, take from the past, and hopefully create a much, much better future. I'm Lawrence Anthony. This has been my nightcap.